And now, the SleepHawk Worldwide Podcast. Here are your hosts, Brandon Staton and Tyler Hansbrough.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the SleepHawk Worldwide Podcast. This is Sleep Dog with the Big Hawk.
What's up, everybody? It's the Big Hawk. It's a beautiful Sunday, and we are back in the studio, ready to do a great pod. A lot to talk about. I'm excited, Sleep.
Yeah, a lot of big time topics to chat about this time. We got some UNC Duke. Oh, man, it's hard to get hyped up about after what just happened out on Saturday. UGA Bama game. Also, you know, me and Big Hawk kind of had the same experience with that one. UNC basketball schedule is out. Okay, that's the light at the end of the tunnel for Carolina fans. Big NBA trade. Karl-Anthony Towns, Julius Randle. We'll get into that. NBA training camp starts today, as you're listening. October 1st, which I guess is, as you're listening, not until tomorrow. So that's Tuesday. And the season starts on the 23rd. We'll run down towards the end of this episode. We're recording here on Sunday. What's going on, what has happened so far on the NFL Sunday. But first things first, anybody listening in our listen area that can hear us, hope everything is going great. I mean, that hurricane just tore through the western part of North Carolina. My parents live out there. They're doing great. They don't have the internet, and that's, like I said, the worst thing that happened to them. They're just sort of southwest of Asheville. My sister's supposed to get married there next weekend. Can't get there. Not sure what's going to come of it. But, man, that's I don't think I realized how serious it was there until over the weekend. So hopefully all you folks listening that are in the area, you and yours are doing okay. Jump into Duke UNC game. I mean, Heels come out up 20-0. Duke is one. They flash on the screen. Duke is 1-72 when trailing by 20 in the second half. And then they just look like, I mean, that one running back from Duke was like Eric Dickerson the rest of the game, and Carolina loses it 21-20 in kind of a Carolina fashion. I mean, I was like, started to get a little disheartened. Maybe it was getting a little saturated, a little hydrated there toward the end of it. Just a bummer, man. Like, yeah. I don't know, dude. I think the defense is really struggling, especially, you know, you go from 20-0, you're thinking, wow, all right, we're back on track, to a loss like this on the heels of a loss like we had to James Madison. I don't know, man. The whisper is going to start getting loud, Big Hawk.
Yep.
I'll say it right here, right now. Like, I'd roll down on this ship with Mack Brown as long as it takes. I don't see the Tar Heels making any moves during the season. Why would you? I don't think, as a fan, my expectations are high enough that I feel like anything should happen to Mack Brown. But, you know, this is just only natural, right? You're going to get some calls after we've had some disappointing stuff and whatnot. I mean, it's all reactionary here, but that one's tough. That was a tough one to take, especially to Duke, when we had, I felt like, the game in hand.
Yeah, and Sleep, first of all, you're right. My thoughts are with the western part of the state. They went through a lot. And I know your parents don't have internet. A lot of people don't have electricity. And, you know, you kind of get frustrated about that. A lot of people don't even have running water. Yeah. And I never even comprehended that. I was like, man, you know, we get pretty frustrated when we don't have electricity, internet, and all that stuff. Man, you take away running water. That's a dip, man. They're going through it.
Can't even get there.
We get this figured out soon. And our thoughts are with you. Hold on one second. Alexa's just having a fit.
Alexa just
Sorry, I just cussed Alexa out. All right, well, moving on. Tell you what, she says
Tar Heels Duke.
Throw her out the window.
She might be drawing up some plays for the defensive coordinator over there at Carolina.
You got to go to one of those ping pong draft style plays. You know, you just like when they do the NBA draft lottery. That's how we're figuring out our defensive schemes. Listen, hey guys, I've said this. It's really hard. You know, we just lost one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Mack's one of the best recruiters in college football. You know, you're going to have years like this We're not Alabama. We're not on that level. We're not a powerhouse in football, but Mack knows how to win. It's proven he is a Hall of Famer, and I know it doesn't feel like that right now. I would take everybody's reactive responses right now, just kind of calm down. Actually, I thought they came out and actually played pretty hard, and I thought they got off to a good start. Obviously, we're all disappointed with the end. There's a lot of Carolina fans that are pretty upset. And you know what? I never believe in, toning those out, those guys. You know what? If you're a Carolina fan and you want to voice your opinion, go ahead. But personally, I think you stick with Mack even through the offseason. I think he's a great coach, and he'll bring in some talent. Winning is not easy. And, whenever you have a turnaround of players like that left for NFL and you have talent leave, it takes a while. And, I know we don't like to hear that in the portal NIL era, and there's other coaches that can do it, but I believe in Mack. I still believe in Mack, and we'll see where this ends up. But I know it was tough. We should have won, and you know what? You don't win them all, but you hate to lose them in that fashion, and you hate to get steamrolled by a team like JMU when you're Carolina, much bigger school with higher expectations. But that's my thoughts. I don't have, the intellect, football scheme wise to really dissect the game like that. But I can tell you from a psychological standpoint, this is how I approach it.
Yeah, 100%, man. Look, here's the deal. As far as I say, you're not going to get any better than Mack Brown at Carolina or most other places. When it boils down to it, you can't let Duke run for 5 yards of carry on you and let him rush the ball 40 times. Just run it down your throat. I mean, defensively, it's been a struggle for Carolina for a long time. And, they've had great offenses. And even when the offense isn't, you can't forget, the quarterback we rolled into the season with lasted about, half a game before he was out for the year, right? And I know he wasn't Drake May or wasn't expected to be, but, you go through an entire offseason with that guy essentially as your number one, and then, boom, the whole thing changes. I'm not making an excuse. You got to win this game, period. There's no doubt about it. I think Mack Brown would be the first person to tell you that. I'm with you. Everything you just said. I think as a Carolina football fan over the years, my expectations have become more and more realistic. And it's very similar to being a Commanders fan, dude. Things seem to be going swimmingly for those guys right now. And, I'm not that excited. You just got to let it play out. It surprised you with the result. Look, you lost a generational quarterback. In Drake May, and prior to that, probably maybe the top two quarterbacks that have ever been at Carolina in the past, two generations of the team, right? So, the quarterback position in college football is maybe the most important position in all of college sports. So, look, we came in here, we got a kind of weak schedule. This Duke game, it doesn't even matter. What happened before, what happens after, how strong the schedule is, how good the team is. Those things have demonstrated they don't matter when you play State and when you play Duke at pretty much anything. So, it's a bummer to, it's like they let their foot off the gas. And it's like every time they handed that kid the ball, Thomas or whatever, the kid had 30 carries for 166 yards and a touchdown. Got to be the best game he's ever had. So,
yeah. And Sleep, I just want to say one thing. You said in college football, quarterback might be the most important position. I would say the quarterback might be the most important position in all of sport.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
And a lot of analysts, and I agree with that. A lot of people say that. And also have one other thought. And there's a lot of things that coaches can't do. They can't tackle. They can't go out there. And players got to compete, and somebody on that locker room has to step up and take a little bit of accountability. You can have all the schemes you want. You can draw up, you can have the best coaches in the world. But at the end of the day, there's no great coach without great players, or, you got to have a little pride if you're a player, and you got to go out there and make tackles and just bear down and compete. And, that goes across the board in all sport.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, we got Pitt coming up next. That's not going to get any easier. Then we got Georgia Tech, both those games at home, at Virginia, at Florida State, Wake Forest. I think they lost to somebody atrocious, or it was real close. Boston College has looked great this year. All of a sudden, that looks like a pretty good game. I think they've looked great. Every time I've looked at them, they're 4-1. And then we got NC State to close the year, so they look like shit too. all of a sudden, schedule, we were talking how easy it looks a lot more daunting after these past two games. So, it's hard to tell that, look, here's the other reality. And granted, you haven't played anyone, okay? But you jump on the defense, we've gone up 17, 20, 10, 70, okay? And then 21 to Duke. I mean, those numbers don't jump off the page at you as horrible scores. Again, you played Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota's whatever they're in, Big 18 conference. The old coal miners, NC Central, James Madison. Like, you expect to keep those teams. Anyway, point I'm saying is that I like Utah. I got no idea. I don't know what a cover 2 is. I don't know what zone defense is. I don't care. Right? Like, I know what a touchdown is, and I know what. That when we score them, it seems to be like Omarion Hampton has got to be a dope guy, right? He's got to be one of those guys that's top running back. I mean, I got a pretty narrow view of the college football running back landscape, but I mean, the guy's a monster. He's got to be an early pick. In the days of first round draft picks being running backs, I mean, he's a shoe-in. But he's our guy, and he, no matter how good, he's been great. And unfortunately, he can get out in the flat and catch the ball, right? But, I mean, you think if your team could stack the box, I mean, it's just amazing what he's been able to do, even though everybody knows he's sort of our penultimate weapon and they just can't stop anybody, at least when it matters. So, I don't know, man. It's Carolina football, dude. Like, you get your hopes up and, look, 8-4 is still on the horizon here. I'm not dogging the team or the coaches or anything, man. I'm like, as a fan, nobody gets to be more critical of a team than their own fans. It's like being family. Like, I obviously want these guys to win. I want them to do great things, and I want them all to be happy. But, like, dude, that's when you can't lose like that. Yep. You can lose. I'd rather lost that game 21-0 than 21-20 after leading by 20 in the second half. To your point, yes, teams got to have some grit. But anyway, I think I said this. They flashed that stat. Duke was 1-72 when trailing by 20 in the second half. And they're now 2-72, and probably pretty happy about that. But that UGA and Bama game, dude. So, I mean, I got my whole setup on my back deck now, right? So it's kind of nice because the 4:00 kick was good because the sun kind of was behind my house, and I'm chilling, dude. I got the grill going. I got TV back there. I got fan blowing the mosquitoes off of me. And then I just totally disheartening. But I'm like, hey, at least we're going to get a great game, Carolina and Alabama. And then the Carolina game kept dragging on, and we finally lost it. And then I was like, well, damn, we'll probably miss the first quarter. And I log in, and Alabama's walking out of the tunnel. And I'm just like, man, dude, this is incredible. Like, look at all the people, pageantry and all this. And they just proceed to start walking the dog on Georgia. Like, I mean, smoking them. I think they were up 28-0 early in the second quarter. And like, Georgia started coming back a little bit. Yep. I'm like starting to wind down. Dude, this is the latest I've been awake in a long time. It's like after 10 o'clock. So I shut her down. Not gonna lie, man. I put everything away, got in the bed, woke up in the morning, and I was like, I wonder how bad Alabama ended up beating them. And I see these highlights about, 2-minute drive down the Georgia throws this 60-some yard touchdown. Incredible play fake. Dude's wide open. Next play, Alabama, that kid, 17 years old. Carolina ain't getting players like that anymore, right? Like, that kid, just one play taught me something. And then Georgia comes all the way down the field and damn near scores again. I don't know, man. How much of that game did you catch? That's got to be the game of the season. That one delivered.
Yeah, it did. And Sleep, I text my friends, a couple group texts. I said, man, Bama's playing like JMU to start this game. They come out.
You mean
there
Georgia was, yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, sorry.
Bama.
Yeah, we would be the Georgia in that situation.
And so I was kind of laughing about that. But you know what? This is what I'll say about the game, Sleep. I think Georgia and I think Bama arguably had the most annoying fan bases in college football. And the way I look at that game is you combine the two most annoying fan bases, and then you just put them all in like just a big, arena, and it's just a massive, massive circus act. Both great football programs. just a lot of characters on the sidelines. And it just seems like Alabama has been America's team, and everyone that kind of follows football is just, I'm a Bama fan. So I pull for Georgia from that, just based off of that. But I didn't watch a lot of the game. I thought it was a great game. I fell asleep early, but that's when Bama had a big lead, and that's all I caught of that.
You know, it's funny because when I watch, obviously we just talked about being a Carolina football fan. I root for Carolina over all those guys head to head. But I just like watching these great teams play. Like, for whatever reason, I don't like Ohio State. I don't like Michigan. But I love watching Alabama. I love watching Georgia. Like, when Tennessee's good, for whatever reason, I like watching those. I like watching Texas. When USC is good, I like watching those guys. So it's, I don't really like Miami and ACC teams. If they're great, that rule goes out the window. But so for me, it's great to watch an Alabama Georgia game and have absolutely no dog in the fight, so to speak, because it's just like, all right, I just chill and see what happens. Like, I have no stress about this whatsoever. And yeah, it was like, you're right about their fan bases. I got friends on each side of it, right? And they're all like, okay, bud, like, I don't think you ever played football maybe in your entire life, not even in like peewee football. It is funny how I guess you could say the same thing about us in basketball. But it's funny because it begs the question. I shot this out in our group text. I was like, dude, and this is while Alabama was rolling. And Alabama, by the way, rankings came out today. They're number one. They're the best team in college football right now. You can't convince me otherwise. I mean, they showed it. Even though they almost lost, they almost gave up the game. Those guys are unbelievable at football. And that's the thing. I was like, dude, could you imagine? All right. Like, imagine Carolina playing Alabama. Like, in even the best season that we've had in a while. But in a season like this especially, it just really sort of like illustrates what we're up against. And I think that's the thing that fans don't they're not enough of a sort of like, we're not sane enough to realize this when we're pulling for Carolina. I mean, dude, these guys, they got guys 3 deep on their depth chart that are all 5-star guys. And that's the problem with a school like Carolina. Like, you got to win the recruiting in your state. But like, if one of these dudes gets an offer from Georgia, like a la Todd Gurley, I think back in the day, Todd Gurley was down to Carolina and Georgia, and maybe some others. I have no idea. Kind of like that was what I recall that situation. I mean, like, he goes to Georgia like every time. Yeah. Why wouldn't he?
Well, we got Drake away from Alabama though.
Yeah, we got Drake away, but we got one. That's a big asterisk there. I mean, like, his dad went here, his brother went here, his brother's a hero here.
Yeah, you're
like,
right.
Look, we got him. And we got, a guy like Omarion Hampton. Dude, I don't know what he was out of high school. I don't follow recruiting, but like, that dude's really good. He could, if he was at Alabama, holy shit, man. But that's the thing is, like, these guys, you want to talk about defense. And that's funny too, because like in college football, I think offense beats defense in college football, just because the schemes are so different. I mean, you look how good those two teams' defenses are, and they hung up almost 80 total last night. So, I mean, what a fun game though. That kid's catch at the end, Williams or whatever from Alabama, kid's 17 years old. He doesn't turn 18 until February. I mean, and this dude could play in the NFL right now. So we don't have anybody on our team that can receiver position that, I mean, maybe since like Hakeem Nicks, that's like seems that good. These guys got like Julio Jones and these guys that come out of their program like on a regular basis.
Josh Downs, he had a pretty good year last year.
Josh Downs,
good call. He's playing okay for the Colts.
He got a touchdown
I agree with you, Sleep, but we've had some talent. I mean,
we've had some talent. We haven't had Julio Jones, and we haven't had like Devontae Smith,
true.
and we haven't had AJ Brown. Like, I mean, these are like absurd.
That's a strong core.
So that's the thing is like we haven't had some of these dudes that go to Georgia. So look, I think when you don't have those players, like, inconsistency is gonna happen, and you're gonna lose like inexplicable games. So I mean, look at Notre Dame lost to Northern Iowa, and then Northern Iowa just lost to NC State or Northern Illinois or whatever. Like, dude, teams that don't have like these alpha players is why the same 5 teams are good every single year, because they always get the same guys. Like, the best players go to those 5 places, 6, 7 places, and that's it. So anyway, like, that's, if you're a Carolina football fan, chill out, dude. You ain't getting better than Mack Brown, period. Like, I'm sorry. So just take the good seasons when they come, roll with the bad ones when they come, and just live to fight till basketball season. Speaking of basketball season, the schedule just came out, and we always kind of make fun of the schedule, but probably a lot of people have been making fun of us because we had a whole lot of like hard-hitting things to talk about for, I don't know, about 5 months now. So we're going to jump into the UNC basketball schedule coming out. Season just right around the corner. What are your key takeaways? Because I didn't even know that until you told me.
Yeah, the schedule came out last week.
See,
first of all,
today.
No. I will say this is one of my favorite times of the year, is when teams start to, just from playing, this is where it starts to get a little more intense, and you start working towards some goals. And you start meeting as a team and start having a lot of hardcore practices. But the schedule just came out. Obviously, we talked about the Kansas game is going to be great at Allen Fieldhouse. That's going to be you want to mark this one down, November 8th. That is a big-time college atmosphere. A lot of people will argue it is the best home court atmosphere in college basketball. Some people will say Duke. I will disagree. I haven't heard Duke loud much. And then we'll move on to December 4th against Alabama in Chapel Hill on the big time ESPN. Obviously, that is going to be a great game. Obviously, Alabama, they knocked us out of the tournament. Last year is either in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. I think it may have been Sweet 16. But
Sweet 16, yeah.
Yep. And, Nate Oates has done a great job for Alabama. They have the kid, Omarion something from Rutgers, who I thought was the best player in the portal. They got that big. That is going to be a big-time game. Alabama is going to be a great team. They're going to be probably a top 5, 10 team in the country to start. A lot of people right now have us top 15, top 20 for sure. We're kind of hovering in and out of there. But, Carolina fans, we don't really care about the preseason stuff after what we went through a few years ago. So preseason means nothing to us. December 21st, UCLA on the biggest stage in sports. We're talking the Garden, New York City, Madison Square Garden. That's going to be an exciting one. 2 of the biggest powerhouses in college basketball historically are going to meet in Madison Square Garden. That's going to be a great game. And Mick Cronin does a great job defensively. He's one of the best coaches in college basketball, in my opinion. And we knocked them out. What was it? The Elite 8 in Philly to go to the Final Four. I think so. 2 years ago.
I was there. We knocked them out in the
3 years
Sweet
ago.
16.
Sweet 16?
In Philly.
Okay.
And then we went and played
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's.
Yep. To go to the Final
Yep.
Four. Yep. That's going to be a big time one. And I'm just looking at it. Obviously, we have our rival games February 1st at Duke, NC State, February 19th, at home in Chapel Hill. That's going to be a big one. NC State, obviously losing DJ Burns, that's going to be tough for them to recover. They have some players. I think they're going to be a pretty solid team. That should be a good showdown. Duke, obviously the flag kid, there's a lot of expectations. A lot of people have them as a top 5, top 10 team. I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see how Duke goes. They've had a lot of turnaround. Obviously, the flag kid has a lot of expectation. I just think it's hard for a freshman, doesn't have a lot of experience, to come in, even though he's extremely talented, to kind of put that much expectation on him. I think freshmen do better when there's a good core group, veteran players, juniors, seniors, and then you start adding in the high quality freshmen. But we'll see. I could be wrong. Obviously, I've been wrong before. And then we end the regular season with Duke at home March 8th. That's going to be a big one. Obviously, you can't ever go wrong with the Duke game. But, I'm excited about the schedule. It's right around the corner. Obviously, we'll have our preseason preview, gearing up for that. Basketball season is on the horizon. There's a lot of expectation this year. In my opinion, we have the best player in the country, RJ Davis, right now, who I consider. And it's going to be exciting. I'm excited about Sleep.
Dude, so a couple things on this. Kansas, I just pulled up the way too early. And at this point, it's not way too early. It came out on September 9th. So 20 days ago. ESPN Top 25. Got Kansas 1, Alabama 2. Okay, so we got both of them on the schedule. They got UCLA is 24, Florida's 21, both of them on the schedule. Got Duke at 9, Carolina at 10. Not a lot of ACC in there. So we got a tough schedule. Obviously, dude, this is, not even the official top 25. But, yeah, there's some heavy hitters on our schedule. I got good news for Carolina fans, okay? My kid was born March 8th, 2024. Okay, so last season, Carolina dropped Duke at home the very next day, his first full day on earth. Okay, and so that's a good omen. And then we got him on his birthday, first birthday, dude, Duke, Carolina. 6:30 tip's going to be tough to keep him awake for, but, believe me, I'm going to slip this kid some coffee, all right, because he's going to be there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah, and we're as much as those tickets are going to cost. We're going. I wonder how old you got to. I wonder how old you got to be for your kid. You got to pay for his ticket. I need to find that out. Might not should put this in the public either because it was like, what time was he born on March 8th? He's not technically a year old yet. Listen, kid, you go stay awake. You gonna remember this shit because these tickets were expensive. I think that the season is look. Carolina's kind of right where you want them to be, right in the middle of the pack, in terms of the top 25, of course, right? Like, you probably debut somewhere between 8 and 12, be fine with that. You're on the radar. There's some great teams, I think, that you're going to see this year. And you're right about this Cooper Flagg kid, man. Like, as much as I hate to say it, when some of the NBA guys start, because he trained some with the Olympic team and, but look, dude, they said the same about Zion. Zion was great when he played, and what did they do with it? I mean, if you're Duke, you've had some great players that, I don't know what it is, to be quite honest with you. And it's really interesting because you mentioned, like, hey, a lot of times when a kid comes in with that much hype, it's nice to have a good, core of veteran players. And I mean, I know their roster up and down, but they become kind of the one and done engine, right? So they got, I think a lot of their primary players are young, and that's just bidding people, man. Like, I have not seen that work yet. I haven't seen it work anywhere. And look, we talked about it, right? It's like, what do you want to be as a college program? Do you want it to be a facilitator to the NBA, or do you want to win national championships? Doing both is tough, And I mean, if you go look at the NBA players that went to Carolina right now, there's some good players, but you're top of your class NBA guys didn't go to Carolina anymore, and it's just, it's who do you want to be? You got, I don't know, man. It's fascinating the way college basketball works now. And, it remains to be seen. A lot of good storylines, man. It's gonna be a lot of good teams, a lot of good basketball. And Hill should be right in the thick of it, man, which is where you want to be.
And Sleep, you just talked about it. You talked about those one and done factories. You look at Kentucky and you look at Coach Cal. Look what those one and dones got him. He's at Arkansas now. That is a team right now that I have on the radar that I want to watch is Arkansas. Cal took a lot of players, a lot of talent with him. And the problem with what Cal is doing in Kentucky, in my opinion, if you take the schemes out of it a little bit, is he had a problem because he struggled with teams that played physical, hard-nosed defense, and smart, disciplined basketball. And the reason I say that is because his motto, the one and dones, they really got hurt when the COVID year was added and they started playing these older, more physical, more mature teams. These five-star kids are great. They're great for the program. They go on to be great NBA players. You look at Kentucky's NBA list right now. It's unbelievable. It's an all-star team. But I'm telling you right now, they got beat by a lot of teams, and they haven't had a lot of tournament success, and that's what led to Cal leaving Kentucky, because Kentucky is the most delusional fan base in all of college basketball, and their program is designed to win at all cost. You can tell me that they wanted to have their motto and they wanted to be known as the one and done factory. Okay, well, they were, and that got their coach fired. Teams want winning, okay? And I'm very curious this year from a college basketball perspective, what is Kentucky basketball going to look like? Because those fans are not patient enough to watch a coach turn a program around and start having success. Their coach right now, he is under the gun to win and win in the tournament. That's what Cal did not do towards the end. Yes, he had a heck of a run for a short period, a lot of success, but ultimately he didn't win in the tournament. And what really hurt him were the older players, the older teams that were disciplined and physically beat them up, and lack of shooting. They didn't have a lot of shooting. And listen, all you Kentucky fans that hit me up on Twitter, blah, 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 and said you guys were a good shooting team, you weren't. And it proved that in the tournament. Okay, when you're not playing on your home court, and you're not in your routine and you're in a different atmosphere, you guys couldn't throw it through the hula hoop. So you played yourself there. Keep coming at me on Twitter, and I'll keep following you and telling you what the reality of your team really is. And, you know, I don't mind Cal. I actually think he's a really good recruiter. And I think I'm really looking forward to the Arkansas game in Rupp. I think that's going to be the college basketball game of the year. I think that Carolina going to Lawrence is going to be up there on that radar as well for college basketball fans. And the reason I say that, Sleep, is because of the history. You talk about Coach Williams coming back to Carolina after he built that Kansas program to what it, ultimately was a sustainable powerhouse college basketball program, and then leaves. There's still a lot of feelings there. And this has not left their fan base, and they're going to be ready for this game. This is a must-watch game. And Kansas right now has one of the best players in college basketball, Hunter Dickinson. I feel like he's been in college basketball forever. But the showdown, there's a lot of people think he's better than RJ. No, he's not. RJ is the best player in college basketball coming back. RJ Davis is the best player in college basketball. Hunter Dickinson is the only argument that can be legit, and a lot of people are saying that. That's why I'm excited about this, and also the history behind the programs and a lot of hard feelings that the Kansas fan base have for the Carolina fan base. And listen, there's no denying it. They've had our number. They beat us on the big show a lot. I've been part of those. Those are some tough losses for the whole family and all of Carolina fan base. And it would be great to go to Kansas and hand them an L on their home court. Now, I've got a lot of faith and a lot of trust in Coach Davis. They've done things like this. You look at when they walked into Cameron and handed Coach K his final L on his home court. Man, that was amazing. Then the final 4L right before K retired. That was great. This is going to be one of those games that Carolina fans, man, I'm excited for. Sleep.
Yeah, this is a big one. Like you said, Kansas has enough ammunition in the rivalry as well. And let's face it, like it or not, Duke does too, right? Of getting the upper hand on occasion. So that's what makes it a rivalry, and I think it's, and that, look, from a practical standpoint, in this season's storyline is concerned, like that game's going to kind of define who Carolina is, at least in the first part of the season. And it's amazing how teams can mature from one half of the season to the other. Getting into conference play and doing well there is like you lose to Kansas, you get the doors blown off in Kansas. Like it's not the end of your season, right? By any means. But if you flip it and you go in there and you win, it can really jolt and it can really sort of mold who you're going to be, in my opinion. Yeah. So it's a really, really fascinating open to the schedule. I do want to come back to one of the things you were saying about, because we're going to talk a little bit about the NBA in a second. But you're exactly right about Kentucky. And as you were going on about that, I was saying, like, I'm thinking to myself, the guard play, especially that these guys have, because I think, we just talked about how important point guards are. In college basketball, quarterbacks, and in college basketball, point guard, you got a good point guard, you can go a long way. All of our teams has pretty good point guards, right? Or guards in general. And, I think if you look at the roster, Devin Booker and Maxey and God, I'm like blanking right now, but even God, who do they got? They got insane players. They got insane starting five. But the thing of it is they're all still young. And they aren't all there at the same time. And you look at the maturity of a human being versus a kid that's 18, a kid that's 21, 22. And then, of course, where do these guys get this meteoric rise? Well, they get to be 23, 24. It seems that number is getting younger, 21, 22, 23. But, like, their bodies fill out. They get a regimen where they're just – this is all they do all day. They're training, they're eating, they got people in here that there's millions of dollars invested in these guys. And so what it is, in my opinion, is Kentucky, Duke, these guys, because listen, Zion Williamson is an incredible basketball player. Like, he's got an injury bug, but when he's on the court, dude, this guy's an all-star, and there's no question about it. So, but what they're doing is they're facilitating the next step for these guys, but they don't get any sort of cohesion along the way, right? And that's what I think the recipe is you look at Carolina, and I think, look, if Carolina gets Cooper Flagg, I think they take him. It's not like if a kid wants to go here, you're like, hey, no thanks, man. We're only looking for top 50 guys, 50 to 100 or whatever, right? So, I'm not saying that if we can land one, we don't. But the point is I feel like the focus is, hey, give me some guys that are way above average and maybe fringe NBA now and, need some development to get there, and versus guys that are NBA. Because here's the thing. Maybe Cooper Flagg I've learned my lesson talking about Wemby, okay? Maybe Cooper Flagg is that good. But the reality is not all of them are, right? And not everybody that comes to that program is going to be LeBron James or Anthony Davis or, or even Zion Williamson. Right. And basically what I'm saying by that is they can win on their own. They can win a game by themselves. And a guy like LeBron James could win a game by himself. And if he had gone to college, he probably would have won a national championship. Guys like Carmelo Anthony, those guys. These are generational players. So Tyrese Maxey is one of my favorite players in the NBA right now. I think that guy's got strong potential to be MVP before his career's over. Okay. But he wasn't going to win a game. He's not Michael Jordan. He's not Allen Iverson. That guy wasn't going to take over a game and win it by himself and win a national championship by himself. So you can take over a game, but can you take over a season? Can a team? He's not Derrick Rose, just retired, by the way. So I think that's the biggest thing with the one and dones is everybody gets enamored with these guys who are so good. They're very good, but they're good in comparison to everybody else that's around them. Maybe in the class they're in, and maybe the class before them. But in the decade, is Cooper Flagg the best player that's come along in a decade? No, I don't know. But I think everybody thinks that every next guy is the guy. And they're chasing a mountain, dude, because you look at some of these guys now and there's no lack of, look, you look around the NBA and look where these guys went to college now. It's always so fascinating to me to figure out all the good players, a lot of them went to Kentucky. They're either one and done or they were from somewhere you've never heard of. So, that's my thought on the one and done. It will be an interesting game. Cal back in Kentucky. Be easy to root for Cal in that one if you're a Carolina fan. But yeah, I guess all that is to say, a lot of very interesting college basketball. And unless you got anything else to go on the college basketball, we can roll that right into the NBA.
Yeah, let's go.
Big news kind of out of nowhere. I think it came out of nowhere to Karl-Anthony Towns. Timberwolves traded him to the Knicks for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, some other stuff going around in there. I think the Hornets were involved somehow to make the cash work or what have you. I guess my short answer to my question is, who won this trade?
To me, there's no question the Knicks won this trade. I think coming into the season, the Knicks had two major issues. One, the center position. They just lost Isaiah Hartenstein in free agency. He demanded a big payday. And then Mitchell Robinson, who they very value a lot. He's a very good player, but he's been injury prone.
Yeah, and he's out. He's out a few months this year too.
Yep.
Already.
And listen, Mitchell Robinson's a good player when he's on the court. I
like Mitchell Robinson a lot.
Yes. Yeah. He's injury prone. He hasn't been very reliable from that aspect. But the second major issue the Knicks were dealing with was the Julius Randle situation. Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson didn't have the best chemistry, and the reason for that is Julius Randle is very ball dominant, as is Jalen Brunson. And obviously, the Knicks also went on a very deep playoff run while Julius Randle was hurt, and Jalen Brunson obviously had a historic run and proved himself. And so the focus has kind of gone from, let's figure out what we need to do with Julius Randle. By the way, Julius Randle was going to acquire a lot of money. He's a 3-time All-Star. Very good player. But financially for Minnesota could not afford Karl-Anthony Towns' contract. If you look at it, it's 4 years, $220 million. And at the end of the day, listen, Minnesota's not New York. New York Knicks could handle his contract. And also in his fourth year, he has a player option for $60 million. That's a lot of money from a ball club. And let's not forget that Karl-Anthony Towns is a very good player. But Minnesota, I think, the experience with Karl-Anthony Towns in the playoffs hasn't been that great. If you look at the Western Conference Finals, he really struggled last year. We talked about that, and he was very open about it. I think he went 3 for 22 from the three-point line, which is not like him. He is a very good, versatile big. He can play inside. He can play the power forward. He can play the center position. And also, I think with the way that the East is set up this year, if you look at Boston with Porzingis, and then you look at Philly with Embiid, you've got to have size. And if you look at Thibodeau and the way he plays, Thibodeau's defense, his defense is designed around guys with size, and he requires a rim protector if you look at his defensive foundations. And so I think the Knicks won this, and I honestly think this makes the Knicks a contender. And listen, I've criticized Cat for a lot of different things, but he's a hell of a basketball player. Yep. And I think that, for him going to the Knicks, I don't think it's I think it's Brunson's team, which is it's kind of laughable to even think about. Like, people didn't believe in Brunson, and now it just looks like his contract is unbelievable. But I think that will help, with the pressure that Cat kind of brings in his contract situation, because he is a max player. And then if you look at why I think the Knicks won this trade, not by much, and I think the trade actually works in Minnesota's favor a lot too, is because Minnesota is they're designing their program, and the face of their franchise is going to be Edwards moving forward. What's his first name, Sleep?
Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards. Yep. I was just blanking on. Yep. Yeah. He is a hell of a talent. And I think the play that Karl-Anthony Towns and a little bit of inconsistency, I think you can't justify his max contract for a team like Minnesota and then still try to, build around Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns and try to be contenders, even though last year they were right there at the door of getting to the finals. And, I just think this solidifies Minnesota and gives them a little more freedom to build around Ant, but also they can keep their, young players like Naz Reid coming in, who had a huge impact and played well while Cat was hurt in the playoffs. So I think this actually works for both teams. But, realistically, I think the Knicks are a contender. And if I'm looking at Minnesota, I still think that there's a little bit more development that their team needs. And a little, a couple more pieces to really put them in the contender category. But I think with Ant moving forward and their development of their young guys and then financial freedom, they can find that piece and eventually here in about a year or two become a contender. That's my thoughts.
It's interesting because I agree. Because I see with like pretty much everything you say, I could see going that way. There's a couple like ifs though. And I'm like you. I'm like it. I think the Knicks won it maybe, but I'm on like a razor's edge. And I really part of me wants to say that Minnesota won it. So let me start with the Knicks first, because I think Karl-Anthony Towns, an underrated player. My biggest fear with him is he hasn't played a full season in a while. I mean, he gets hot, he gets hurt a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I'm looking at his stats. I mean, he's a 50-40 guy. I mean, this dude's a center that shoots 50% from the floor and 40% from three. He's going to rebound and do all these things, but he's not as defensive guy as Gobert was. So that's kind of makes more sense when it all shakes out. But the emergence of Naz Reid, to your point, like as a player in the playoffs, like solidified what, nerds that play like fantasy basketball kind of already knew, which was, dude, Naz Reid's a good player, like a really good player. And, it allowed them, knowing they got a guy that's like serviceable, he can score, he can defend, like they could let go of Karl-Anthony Towns. And the best, if you're going to get rid of him or Gobert, you keep Gobert, because like it or not about Gobert, he's a defender. I mean, he's a great defender. What do they call him? The Stifle Tower, right? So, and now what you have, I think the biggest piece here, Randle is interesting to me because Randle's an all-star, right? But like same kind of situation. Like it's funny too, by the way, these two guys, where they go to school, Kentucky, Randle and Karl-Anthony Towns. But the biggest player to me is DiVincenzo. I mean, DiVincenzo is like a Danny Green type role. And now you look at a team like Minnesota with a starting five, presumably of Edwards. You've got Gobert. You got Randle. You're probably going to have Jaden Daniels, who's a great defender, like excellent defensive player of the year type guy. And then you can roll out, I guess maybe Naz Reid or DiVincenzo. I think you're right. I think maybe there's another piece there. I want to look up their roster. But, I mean, those guys have been – the year before last, they were almost in a Western Conference. Now, the problem is you got to get through Denver. I mean, I think they did that, though, didn't they? You got to get through Denver. Yep. You got to get through – you got to remember, too, that the Lakers and the Warriors being the shitty teams in your conference, it just shows like how good that conference is. The Rockets are an emerging team. The Thunder are they West Conference?
Oh yeah,
they're good.
Thunder are getting much better.
Clippers they still got Kawhi Leonard. So look, there's a lot of good teams in the West, and that's probably the biggest thing for the Wolves. And I just but my thought is that, gosh, I mean, if Anthony Edwards makes that like huge leap, I mean, he's another guy that could vie for MVP. I'm trying to find our damn roster.
Mike Conley is a guy that is a veteran player that plays for the Wolves. That's a very good piece and provides a lot of great leadership. But Sleep, I'm with you on the Anthony Edwards. I think he's an amazing piece, and a lot of people compare him to Jordan. But you've been on him since day one. You kind of talked about it on the podcast about how good of a player you think he's going to be, even before he kind of broke out. Yeah, and he's starting. I expect him to take a much bigger role.
All he really needs, in my opinion, they got Alexander Walker is a nice player, but everybody else is not Joe Ingles. Edwards' thing is, I think, if I had to guess, I mean, he's 6'4", 225. I mean, dude, he's a prototype. Kid's 23 years old. I feel like he's still a little bit of a streaky shooter. I think he's a great shooter. He's a fearless scorer. Super athletic. But I still feel like sometimes I pay a lot of attention to NBA, a lot of attention to that whole class for whatever reason is like I'm fascinated by it. But like I see a lot of games where he's been on my fantasy team for about 3 years now. He'll go 4 for 15 some nights, 6 for 20, This is like, but he still gets 8 and 6 and 16 on a bad night. And he's fearless, dude. He's the guy you gotta have. Sometimes I wish he'd be like a little humble, but if you're gonna be great, there ain't no time for that shit. So anyway, I mean, I think they're gonna be, a really good team. NBA season, I know a lot of our listeners might not be super into it, but it's going to be fun to watch. So training camp starts October 1st. Season starts October 23rd. Warriors got till the 22nd to give my guy Kuminga an extension here. Okay. Both sides kind of say they want it. What I feel like is going to happen is they're not going to give him the extension, and the whole year is going to be a disappointment because I don't know if he's mature enough to play under that kind of pressure yet. but I think he's going to be a great player. I think people are going to find him. He dyed his hair blonde. You hear about that?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, he's about to go off.
You got to show out for that.
Oh yeah, definitely. NFL, let's run them down real quick, as we've been doing here lately. Oh god, got some sort of Marvel movie ad playing on my screen here. Where the scores at? That's all I need here. Scores. Oh, I don't even know. What was the last time? Look at Commanders, 35-14 over the Cardinals. Jaden Daniels, 25 of 29. 206 and a touchdown. Wow. Patriots. They're going to get Drake May in there eventually. They're down 27-10. Just started the fourth quarter to the 49ers. 49ers 1-2. Wow. Let's see. Raiders leading the Browns 20-16, starting out the fourth quarter. Chargers, Chiefs tied at 10. Boy, I tell you what, the Chiefs seem to just find ways to win. They haven't looked all that impressive doing it. Falcons 26 beat the Saints 24. Bears beat the Rams 24-18. Vikings 31. Packers 29. Jordan Love went off at the end of the game. I mean, guy's a gunslinger. Colts beat the Steelers 27-24. Broncos Jets, I mean, absolute just shred fest 10-9. Oh, wow. Bucks Eagles. Dude, Baker Mayfield. Guy came out of nowhere. 33-16, Bucks win. Panthers lose another one. 34-24 to Bengals. Texans 24, Jags 20. And, of course, everybody saw the Cowboys beat the Giants 20-15 on Thursday night. Your Sunday night game will be Bills-Ravens. Jimmy's Famous Seafood is about to be popping off. It's a home game for the Ravens. 2 Monday night games. This is like a new thing. And they started doing two games every Monday night, which I'm kind of here for. Titans, Dolphins, and Seahawks, Lions. So, yeah, my fantasy team is not looking great right now. But the season is young. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of stuff going on. That was probably the best, most substantive episode I feel like we've had in quite some time. Hope we filled your mind like Jimmy's Famous Seafood box will fill your belly. There's my pitch for those guys. You got anything else, Big Hawk?
Stay safe.
Stay safe out there, guys.